The Yemeni Army has warned that Saudi attacks on the impoverished nation will not go unpunished. Army spokesman Yahya Sari said, Saudi Arabia cannot achieve its goals by targeting ministries and civilian infrastructure. He added that the Yemeni forces would retaliate against such raids. Sari also dismissed as false and fake the Saudi claims that the Yemeni Army uses civilian facilities for military purposes. Earlier, Saudi warplanes hit a communication system near the telecommunication ministry in the capital, Sana'a. Riyadh claimed the Yemeni troops used the ministry to control drones targeting Saudi positions. Saudi Arabia launched a war on Yemen in 2015, which has claimed hundreds of thousands of lives so far. Well, joining us now from Bristol, we have historian and investigative journalist Tony Gosling. Mr. Gosling, welcome to the program. Give us your thoughts, first of all, on the recent comments coming from the Yemeni Army. They've warned that the Saudi attacks on the impoverished nation will not go unpunished. Of course, alluding to the retaliatory attacks the Yemenis have carried out, as we've seen in recent times. How much can these retaliatory attacks change the equations of this war on Yemen?
Well, the problem here is that even if you're attacking Saudi Arabia, the real proponents of this war, the people pushing it, are the United States and the United Kingdom. So they are putting pressure on the Saudis to continue the war. In fact, they have their special advisors from the Royal Air Force in there helping. And the problem here is that, I mean, you're talking about the casualties. Let's just be a bit more specific. The campaign against the arms trade, which I used to be the Oxford representative for many years ago, put out a statement recently. The total figure killed is now approaching 400,000 people. It started all this nearly 7 years ago. This civil war, supposed civil war, but actually what it was a globalist faction, a NATO faction, a US faction, which was allowed to spawn in Yemen, and then the local people decided we're not having this anymore, and that's how it all started. So it's not really a civil war, it's a deliberate destruction of Yemen, which is being carried out by the West. A friend of mine actually was in the British Army in Yemen back in the 1960s, and they had a skirmish which removed the British Army from Yemen back in the 1960s, which killed just about a scores of people, only very, very few. And so the British then decided, right, we've had enough of this, we're going to leave. This present conflict has been absolutely devastating. Of course, this country is the poorest country in the Middle East, and to have to suffer this, of course, has meant the deaths of many people simply through things like starvation and, of course, the infamous cholera, which has been helped. So the Saudis are really saying that they are attacking military targets. Well, I'm afraid there are virtually no military targets left. We've seen civilian targets targeted again and again and again. For example, weddings, funerals, marketplaces where people are trying to buy food. These are not military targets. The UN has been forced to pull out its human rights monitors at the end of last year, around about October 2021. And guess what? The Saudis have taken advantage of this by using the excuse to kill more and more civilians. So the death rate of civilians in Yemen has doubled since October 2021. So I think it's taken a long time, but it is essential that there is some sort of pushback against Saudi Arabia, whatever form that takes. And I would suggest it also should take some form of pushback from against Britain and the United States, who are really pushing this. It's not a war, it's a slaughter.
Mr. Gosling, the war has been going on for 7 years, and by many accounts, the Saudis and the Saudi-led coalition has not achieved its goals. Is it safe to say that the Saudis are even farther now from their initial objective 7 years on into the war?
Well, it depends what you think their goals are. The Saudis may say that they wish to, stop the Houthis, right? But the goals could well be simply to disrupt the country, to make it impossible to for Yemen to to get itself organised. Remember, this part of the Arabian Peninsula was pretty much one big country before the First World War, the Arabian Peninsula, and really Yemen is part of Saudi Arabia. But the thing is, it's a part of Saudi Arabia which is not ruled and dominated by the royal family. And it's a potential, in fact, in many times in the past, it has been a centre for resistance against the Saudi royal family. And so that's why they want to just disrupt it. I think their aims are being successful. What that is to say, they just want to ruin Yemen, to make it impossible for the Yemenis to really put up much resistance against the House of Saud. That's, I'm afraid, their objective. And the idea that they want to fight a battle and end in some sort of victory for Saudi Arabia, I don't think is necessarily the case. What I think they want is just simply to bog the entire nation down in war, poverty and cholera in order to kill as many civilians as possible, and therefore to disrupt any kind of resistance against them on the Arabian Peninsula.
All right, thanks a lot, historian and investigative journalist Tony Gosling, joining us from Bristol.